We did this exercise before where we draw a complex object from 2D projections and vice versa. In this exercise, we will do both. I brought some geometrical objects from Google and I will project a 3D object into 2D first, and then try to construct it back in 3D from the 2D projection. So let's first draw the side, front, and top grid based on the units shown on the object. So here we have 1 unit, and according to the image we have 3.5 units in width and 3 units in height. For the front we have 8.5 units in width and again 3 in height, and 3.5 units in width and 8.5 units in length for the top side. Okay, now let's draw the side projection. We draw the side first as it's facing us. Then we can add the hidden objects behind the side like the platform in the bottom and the hole in the same floor. Follow the little marks on the reference to know the exact units, either a full unit or a half unit. We also have the hole going all the way to the other side. And this is the side projection done. For the front we have the slope looking straight here, and the same on the other side. With the platform in between, there will be a hidden hole in the middle, and 2 holes on each side. I think I made a mistake here. The edge on the left side slope won't be all the way up. It will be around half a unit up. So let's fix that. For the top view, you have the platform covering the whole area with a rectangle on the right and an L shape on the left. We can see the hole in the middle clearly here, and 2 hidden holes on each side. The hole placement is a bit confusing on the reference, but eventually I figured it out and readjusted its place accordingly. The problem was I misjudged the units in the first place. It wasn't 8.5 units in length, it was just 8, and that's why the ellipse was looking a bit wide. So let's make it 8 units and everything will fit in place now. It's okay to make a mistake as long as you catch it later on, before finishing up the whole thing and adding the details. Now it looks correct. So with that done, let's now draw the 3D object again. I will draw 2 versions of this, just to show how the object will look different depending on the angle. The reference photo here is an isometric view, so unless you do isometric perspective, it will never look like you see it in the drawing. For the first example, I will draw the object closer to one vanishing point, and you will see how distorted that will look like later. I will draw it then in the center and it will look much better. So first I divide the units for the bounding box, both vertically and horizontally, using the measurements as we did before many times. and here is the bounding box all divided around. Let's start with the front view and the bounding box next. Then we draw the side view and connect it to the front. Now we can start adding the depth using the top and front projections for reference. We extend to the other side as well using the vanishing point. The main body is done. Let's add the hose on both sides and on the platform in the middle. And this is all done. You see how different it looks from the reference? You can also move it above the horizon line and it will look even more different. Each time you draw this, try to draw it differently than the reference photo, so it won't be an exact copy. I keep saying this over and over because I don't want you to learn how to copy things, even in the first book. I want you to be inspired by the reference, and then you do your own thing. Something we will really hit more in the second and third chapter. So with that one done, let's draw it again in the middle, in between the two vanishing points, just to see how different it will look without severe distortion. Starting the same way with the subdivision on the main bounding box. We start with the side this time for a change from the first time we did it. Now we add depth and the other side of the object. Finally, we add the hose all around. You see how different this looks from the first one? Much less distorted and more in tune with the original drawing. It's not a 100% copy since it's not an isometric perspective, but it's much better representation of the original design. And this is it with the 2D projections side by side. Next object is a bit more complicated. Things will get more complicated as we move up the scale. So let's modify the previous grid to fit the new units of the object. Again, observe the marks so you know exactly how many units are there. With that done, let's draw the side view, observing all the details from the reference photo. Adding the hidden holes next. And it's done. Moving on to the front view. Lots of details there, so pay attention and don't rush things up. Adding the hidden holes now. And it's done. Finally, the top view, we go over the same process. And now all the 2D projections are done. Let's start drawing the 3D object. This time we're going to do one version only, but do feel free to make as many versions as you want for each object. Starting with the bounding box and the divisions. Same process with adding the side, then the front, or vice versa. You can even start with the top if you want. Next we add depth and the other side of the object. Finally, we add the final details like the holes. And it's done. Looks very cool when you finish it. And this is the final object with the 2D projections side by side. On to the next one. This one has a tricky part with half a unit from the far side flying in the mid-air or the slab at the bottom of the straight edges. So pay attention to the small details here. Adjusting the unit again and then drawing the side, front and top projection. If the reference gets a bit confusing, draw on it to see where the marks are leading to, like I did here. Now the projections are done, let's draw the 3D object. Go at it the same way as before. And it's done. And here it is with the 2D projections. Let's go up a level and draw more complicated shapes, like this one. Lots of slopes here and there, so pay attention to the details and take your time. Let's first start with adjusting the units, then drawing the projections plan. Once I'm done, I move to drawing the 3D object. I'm not doing a lot of commentary here because we have done this so many times back in the lessons and here as well. If you feel that this is too hard to follow, please go back to the 2D projection lesson and follow up the detailed explanations over there before coming back to this exercise, just so you don't get lost in without the commentary. And it's done. Moving on to yet more complex example. This time it's not just a random object, but a low detailed house, which is basically what this exercise is all about. We won't be drawing random objects in real life, but the complexity of the actual objects follow the same rules as the abstract one. So here we will follow the same rules. Add the units first. Next, draw the projection plans for each side. Once you're done with the 2D projections, draw the 3D part by adding the bounding box first, dividing it all around, adding the front and side projections, and then adding the depth to it. Finally, finishing up the details. It took some adjustments here or there, but here it is. The house is done using the exact method we did for random abstract objects. And to prove that this is the same thing we use to draw technical props and objects, the next example will be a very complex one in comparison. An actual toy car with all the smooth and soft details. Let's see how we can convert this into 2D projection first and then a 3D object. We don't have units on the reference here, so I took my thumb and guesstimated the units for each side of the car. Now you might get it wrong, and I think I did a little with the units, but it's okay, you can readjust and redraw it again. This is just an example on how we will draw real objects. There won't be always units to follow, but if you follow the previous examples, it should be the same process. So after guessing the units on the main reference, I can now draw the grid for each projection. Again, things will look a bit off, but you can always try again. So after drawing the grid, let's draw the side view. I'm checking the whole object as I draw the side. Yes, you can see the front bumper first, but don't forget the hidden objects behind it. Imagine you have a knife and you're cutting the car section by section, starting from the front all the way to the back. Think of what the section will look like as if you move slowly to the back. There will be the roof behind the front of the car, there will be an interior hall, and finally the wheels underneath it. And that's what we will add. And this is the front view. Let's move it down next to the side grid so I can reference it as I draw the side view. The side here will be the body of the car with everything behind it, just like we did with the front projection. Move the section knife slowly from the front all the way to the back and imagine how things will look underneath it as you cut it off slice by slice. The top seemed a bit high after I drew the front and the side, so let's cut half a unit off the top. This is why things are very dynamic here, when you don't have anything but an object in the reference. This is yours to decide how big, how small, and how wide the car will be. You can even modify the car dimensions as you move along, make it bigger, smaller, shrink it more, or extend it a bit further. This is your design, so you decide how you want it to look like. Now for the top, same process as we did with the previous two projections. And it's done. These are the 3 projections for the car. Time to draw it in 3D. It will be much easier now since we already decided all the units and all the shapes in the projection. And we have the reference image for, well, the reference. When I drew the bounding box, it felt like the car is too narrow, so I decided to add another unit to the side view. As I mentioned, the process is very dynamic, so don't be rigid with your design. It should look good, not technically good, but visually good to see. So let's start now, drawing the front and the side and adding the depth as we move on. I draw the body of the car first, and then start adding details to the side. Lots of smooth objects here, so we will have lots of freehanding to do. Otherwise, this will take forever. But if you want to be more technical at first, then by all means go ahead. I add the hose for the wheels and then move on to the roof. Next I add the roof pillars that will be on the main body. I add the wheels next, with the depth of each wheel as well. Adding the final details here and there. And it's done. You can obviously see that I messed up the length of the car, and that resulted in a very squeezed car, which honestly looks funnier to me, so I'll keep it like that. But adding one more unit to the front projection would have made the car similar to the reference. But since I didn't want another copy anyway, this was a lucky accident, so I'm happy with it. Now it looks more like a clown car, which isn't too bad. And here's the final car and its projection plans. So Google more abstract objects and increase the difficulty as you go up, all the way to cars, props, or even furniture. Take your time and enjoy each part of the process. Next up, stairs. We've done so many stairs before, but let's try some new designs. For example, multiple stairs going upward. We start with the main bounding box for the stairs, and we divide the steps in equal parts. We're gonna use 7 steps per level and then move up to the second level. Once you have the steps height done, you can move it vertically to get the step above it. Then we connect it to the vanishing point and we get the depth for the steps. We have to decide how wide it will be and cut it on the other side. Then we connect that end to the vanishing point to close it up. Now so far nothing is different, but now for the last step, let's extend it a bit more, as it will be the area where the people walk toward the upper floor. Time to clean up these lines, so let's draw it over with clean lines so we can add the next floor without getting confused with all the lines around. Now we will see the final step as the ground level for the next set of steps. We do the same as we did before, draw the bounding box for the first step, divide it into 7 equal parts and project each step vertically and then to the vanishing points. The width of the steps will be moving along with the limit of the first set of steps we did before. This way we have equal steps all the way up. Things might get confusing, so try to do these lines on multiple layers to hide the ones you don't need anymore as you move up. I redo the new set of steps again so I can remove the perspective lines later. The stairs are getting narrowed as we go above the horizon line and back into perspective as well, so it's getting tricky as we move up. Let's do one more set now, moving to the right side, using the same technique as before. We divide 7 equal parts and project the steps toward the vanishing points. Then we do the whole thing again and finish it up. The groups need a better thickness at the connection points. So let's move the first step of each new set down to cover the base of the last step of the previous ground. This way it will have more thickness to it. Now it looks better. You can keep going up or down, left or right as much as you want, and end up with a sheet of paper filled with steps. But let's do another one, but instead of straight steps, let's get a spiral one. This might get a bit confusing, but the concept is easy. To draw a cylinder going all the way up, and then divide it into equal steps vertically this time. On each segment we draw an ellipse for the diameter of the steps. Once we drew the ellipses on every step, now we have to cut out the shape of the steps from the ellipse. We do that by drawing a diagonal on each rectangle and then mark each interaction between the cross lines and the ellipse on the bottom. I do the same for the second ellipse and connect one step between the bottom and the top ellipse. For the next step, I start from the end of the first step and move one segment to the back, either clockwise or anti-clockwise, and draw the second step. Then I move up and on and on and on until I get the rest of the staircase. You can divide the ellipse even more, like we did before, into 12, 16, 24 segments to make each step even smaller and the staircase even higher. But just another idea to draw when you draw the stairs. It gets tricky as you move up because some of the steps will be very foreshortened as we go toward the upper steps. But since you have the marking on each ellipse, things will be fine. This step is completely hidden because we only see the back side of it, while the rest is almost hidden behind it. Also because we are reaching the horizon line, so it will be flatter here. Now that we are above the horizon line, we start seeing the bottom of each step as we move up. And here are all the steps. We now need something to hold them together. So let's draw a smaller cylinder in the center of the steps holding all of them together. So first we draw the cylinder and next we start deleting the intersection parts that will be either hidden behind the steps or overlapping the steps as they rotate. I will also draw a smaller form lines on the cylinder as it goes up to know where they will be reacting to each step. To make it easier to know what will be seen or not from the main cylinder or the steps. We have both the form lines and the steps together, and now we can start removing all the intersection points from them. And here it is, all done. Another idea to add to your exercises as you do them. Make the steps smaller or the whole thing higher and see how it goes. In the next video, we will talk about simplifying complex objects into basic shapes. So see you there with more exercises. As always, if you like this video, feel free to leave a like. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section and I will do my best to answer them as soon as possible. To stay notified for future lessons, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.